Good morning, children. So previous session we discussed about principle of treatment. But as an old English saying goes, prevention is better than cure, isn't it? So rather than going for the costly, time-consuming and stressful treatment, why not take some measures to prevent the disease well in advance, isn't it? So let us take up the present scenario. Now, in the recent in this year, we have been restricted in our activities, isn't it, children? We have been confined to our home. Even when we come out of our home, we are following certain rules and measures. What? Maybe wearing a mask, maybe using a sanitizer, maybe maintaining a physical distance from each other, and eating a lot of healthy food. So why are we following all these measures? In order to prevent any chances of getting infected with COVID-19. But are you doing this only for the first time? No, you have been doing right from the beginning, isn't it? Like you have been maintaining yourself healthy by taking proper diet or by doing proper regular exercises. Follow, children. So the principle of prevention is based on two. One, the general means, and the other is specific means. Nowadays, what all we are doing is all our our general means of prevention. Okay, so what are the general means of prevention? Maybe taking a proper diet, nutrition, okay, or playing games such that uh, we are fit and fine, then doing exercises, having a nutritious food, following a healthy lifestyle. Clear? And then not only physical fitness is important, even mental fitness is important. So for that only, what we are doing, we are also practicing some meditation, isn't it? So apart from that, we also should follow some good habits, maybe keeping away from smoking, alcohol, drugs and all. So about specific, we'll discuss a little while later. We will little further discuss more about general means of prevention. Now, what are the other general means of prevention? We should follow not only personal hygiene, but also public hygiene. What is that public hygiene? Maybe keeping our surroundings clean, proper disposal of waste, not allowing the stagnation of water. Fine. So, personal hygiene as well as public hygiene are important. Now, when we follow this general means of prevention, we are preventing not one disease alone. We are preventing diseases which may be spread by these modes, maybe through air, maybe through water, maybe through consumption of food, or maybe by some unhygienic, unhealthy practices. So all these can be prevented if we follow both personal as well as public hygiene. But then sometimes it is not alone sufficient in order to take up general means of prevention. We also need to take up the specific means of prevention. And what is the specific means of prevention? The specific means of prevention is by taking vaccines. And you all are aware of this. You have been learning in the previous standard. So what are vaccine, children? Let us recall. These are nothing but the mild form of germs, dead or weak germs injected in our body to stimulate WBCs to produce antibodies. So you see, children, we have a natural immunity within our body. And what is that natural immunity in our body? The immune system, that is the lymphatic system, and the immune cells, WBCs, which are designed to fight off the infections. But then these natural immunity alone is not sufficient to fight the infection. Then this natural immunity is boosted by an artificial immunity. And what is that artificial immunity? That is only nothing but vaccines. And these vaccines more or less act like our WBC. So we can say they pretend to act like our immune system. So they are mimicking them. Okay, so this is also based on now the vaccines work on the principle of our immune system. Now what does our immune system do? It will fight the microbes when the microbe enters into our body by activating the WBCs to generate antibodies and destroy these pathogens. In the same manner, when vaccines are injected into our body, this will act like a minor infection, which immediately will be detected by whom? Will be detected by WBC, thinking that it is a pathogen. So you are in a way fooling the immune system. Thereby, WBCs will release antibodies and then fight off the infection. So next time, actually when this will happen, our body, our immune system will be ready to fight off the infection. That's why WBCs are also called as the first line of defense. Am I clear, children? So not only treatment but also prevention is essential, and for that reason only we are immune to many diseases by taking vaccines. And all of you as a child must have taken these vaccines, and you all must be having your own vaccine card. But then during our lifetime, one or the other time, we are infected by a disease, and disease always may not be curable. They leave some bad impression upon our body. So what are those limitations, or what are those, how does this disease end up in an individual? The disease will end up in three ways. It will result in three consequences. If I start from my left, it will take long time for recovery. Okay, so though you must have, if suppose you have suffered from typhoid, you may be coming to school within a fortnight, but then still your body feels weak almost for a period of 3 to 4 months. Why? Because it is taking time for recovery. Then if not recovery, sometimes it may lead to permanent damage. Maybe in case of tuberculosis, elephantiasis, polio, where the organs will be damaged forever. Then the very bad consequence of a disease is that either the person may die, the disease may become lethal, or the person, even if he recovers, may become the carrier of the disease. Okay, children. So thereby they may lead to, though they may have recovered, but they still carry the infection and they may spread to others. So that's why it's better we follow the preventive measures to keep away these diseases. Children, here I now just play a small video for a better understanding about vaccines.
In 1796, the scientist Edward Jenner injected material from a cowpox virus into an 8-year-old boy, with a hunch that this would provide the protection needed to save people from deadly outbreaks of the related smallpox virus. It was a success. The 8-year-old was inoculated against the disease, and this became the first ever vaccine. But why did it work? To understand how vaccines function, we need to know how the immune system defends us against contagious diseases in the first place. When foreign microbes invade us, the immune system triggers a series of responses in an attempt to identify and remove them from our bodies. The signs that this immune response is working are the coughing, sneezing, inflammation, and fever we experience, which work to trap, deter, and rid the body of threatening things like bacteria. These innate immune responses also trigger our second line of defense, called adaptive immunity. Special cells called B cells and T cells are recruited to fight microbes and also record information about them, creating a memory of what the invaders look like and how best to fight them. This know-how becomes handy if the same pathogen invades the body again. But despite this smart response, there's still a risk involved. The body takes time to learn how to respond to pathogens and to build up these defenses. And even then, if a body is too weak or young to fight back when it's invaded, it might face very serious risk if the pathogen is particularly severe. But what if we could prepare the body's immune response, readying it before someone even got ill? This is where vaccines come in. Using the same principles that the body uses to defend itself, scientists use vaccines to trigger the body's adaptive immune system without exposing humans to the full-strength disease. This has resulted in many vaccines, which each work uniquely, separated into many different types. First, we have live attenuated vaccines. These are made of the pathogen itself, but a much weaker and tamer version. Next, we have inactive vaccines, in which the pathogens have been killed. The weakening and inactivation in both types of vaccine ensures that pathogens don't develop into the full-blown disease. But just like a disease, they trigger an immune response, teaching the body to recognize an attack by making a profile of pathogens in preparation. The downside is that live attenuated vaccines can be difficult to make, and because they're live and quite powerful, people with weaker immune systems can't have them, while inactive vaccines don't create long-lasting immunity. Another type, the subunit vaccine, is only made from one part of the pathogen, called an antigen, the ingredient that actually triggers the immune response. By even further isolating specific components of antigens, like proteins or polysaccharides, these vaccines can prompt specific responses. Scientists are now building a whole new range of vaccines called DNA vaccines. For this variety, they isolate the very genes that make the specific antigens the body needs to trigger its immune response to specific pathogens. When injected into the human body, those genes instruct cells in the body to make the antigens. This causes a stronger immune response and prepares the body for any future threats. And because the vaccine only includes specific genetic material, it doesn't contain any other ingredients from the rest of the pathogen that could develop into the disease and harm the patient. If these vaccines become a success, we might be able to build more effective treatments for invasive pathogens in years to come. Just like Edward Jenner's amazing discovery spurred on modern medicine all those decades ago, continuing the development of vaccines might even allow us to treat diseases like HIV, malaria, or Ebola one day.